I am always humbled by the love, affection, and the kind of collaboration I get with my colleagues in the manufacturing fraternity. And it has been for close to 2 decades a regular part of my life to interact with leaders from the manufacturing industry, people whose responsibilities in life, at work, does not limit to achieving KPIs, but to be like a caretaker, godfather for all the employees in remote locations, reporting to factories, their safety, their families. Several times, many of you run colonies where you have to worry even about how the family is engaged and entertained, and they feel at peace. So I really hold a very high level of respect and gratitude for manufacturing professionals because, okay, I know this word that, you're an unsung hero is overused, but it is a fact that the value addition manufacturing has to society is multidimensional in nature. So let me start this session by quickly giving a gist on why we instituted the Manufacturing Thought Leaders Summit, right? Definitely one of the simplest reasons is that all of you are traveling. I think most 90% of the audience here are not from Mumbai, and you've taken a lot of effort to be here, right? Travel to take your awards today evening, and we thought if so much effort goes in, then the value addition should be a little more than celebration, right? Of course, celebration is a very big part of it, and we are trying our best to make sure that, that the celebration is of that degree. But that said, we also want you to go back with some ideas, right? We want you to also go back with more confidence in some of your thoughts. We want you to go back with newer perspectives and also a cherishing experience of meeting some of these people. So I also have to thank several speakers who have come and our partners who have been instrumental in making this a success. Now, let us go into the basic of who is a thought leader. Can someone say, who is a thought leader? It is the Thought Leadership Summit. Can somebody say who is a thought leader? What is your definition of who is a thought leader? Yes? Can somebody raise your hand? Who's? Self. Okay, yourself. Okay, self is a thought leader. Then? People who have the progressive thought. Okay, that is one perspective. Yes? Person who instigates you to think. Okay. So I'll tell you, our understanding of who's a thought leader when we instituted this program, a thought leader is not a person who has a unique thought. A thought leader necessarily does not have to have a disruptive or a completely innovative thought. A thought leader is somebody who has a direct, clear understanding of a concept and who can lead teams into actioning that concept. We all need that one person, right? Who has what Deming calls profound understanding of something. Experiential understanding. The tacit knowledge on the subject. The real life practicality of executing something. He is a thought leader. So somebody who came up with TQM or TPM is not the thought leader. He is the creator. He is the discoverer. But a thought leader is somebody who can lead teams into that thought. Right? So all of you are highly capable of being thought leaders. And I'm sure most of you in this room are. Right? And this whole session is designed for that. So that we give you a little more knowledge, little more profoundness in some of these subjects. Right? So that you are more equipped to lead teams in believing some of the progressive ideas on manufacturing. See, there is a greatness, there is an advantage of being a leader in India. The advantage is the ceiling on where we will saturate in manufacturing is far, far away. So all of you have this wonderful opportunity to make a substantial impact. Think of being a unit head or leading a team in Japan, who is considered one of the top 2-3 destinations in the world for manufacturing. It is very difficult, right? Because the delta opportunity is very less. In India, many of you in your own lifetime can build new manufacturing units, will be able to make an impact in your manufacturing systems, adopt new management practices, right? Nurture people, create new leaders. I think these are all wonderful opportunities each one of you have, right? Now, yesterday, I planned a panel discussion where I specifically chose people whom I and my team have visited their units. We specifically know these are meticulous gentlemen. We know that these are people who have very sound knowledge on what they're doing. And many of them in that panel are handling more than one manufacturing unit, handling more than one unit head. Right? And they are having semi-corporate roles. Right? Because they have to worry about what's happening in the field and also what the corporate boss wants. So the people were chosen that way. And we were having this discussion on, scale or efficiency. What should be the mindset when it comes to capex spending in India? Right? So there were several ideas, right? The first idea being it is subjective. It is subjective on the business, etc. and so on. Right? Then the next idea is that, you have to have flexibility. Right? So I will be progressive, I will be risk-taking. Rather than planning a failure ka backup, I'll have flexibility as a backup. Right? That was the overarching takeaway from that session, right? Everybody was agreeing to that one thing. I will not be a pessimist, I will be an optimist, but with some flexibility. Right? But I believe one of the things I know each one of them are worried about, concerned about, and they work very hard on is, what am I doing in my factory? Where am I investing my resources so that my organization is in a better competitive position? Actually, that is the absolute primary reason you want to put your money in. Right? Because if there is an external stakeholder, if there is a promoter, if there is a board of director, right, and he has all the right intentions for your company, that is the primary thought, right? Because you want to rotate money, there is banking. There is the finance industry. Industrialists are always the so-called difficult lot, right? They take too many risks for less returns. Right? At least, and it's a fact. It's been proven. There are industrialists who go in a country like India, many industrialists have to give, personal guarantees for the thousands of crores of loan and investment they do. Right? So they're definitely not in the business of rotating money. They're in the business of creating large-scale wealth for themselves and the stakeholders in their organizations. Right? That is why what one Dhirubhai Ambani created, right, is something which is very difficult to replicate. What the Tata groups continuously, they have institutionalized it now. They have institutionalized entrepreneurial thinking. Titan is one story, Tata Motors is one story, TCS is one story. Right? But there are hundreds of such examples. All of them have grown by making sure resources are deployed continuously in their organizations towards building towards improving the competitive position. Right? And that comes from thought leadership of people who are on the ground. That translates to you having profound knowledge to lead large teams in a certain direction. And at IRIM, we have some exposure, right? So this whole program, industry program, is about 14 years old. I have been evaluating manufacturing units for the last 18 years. And most of our assessors have not visited less than 400, 500 manufacturing units. Right? And I have probably touched 1,000 by now, I guess. Right? And we have had the opportunity to visit some of the most forward-looking, progressive hardcore decision makers in our life. Right? So what have we seen? What defines a strong, agile, again, agile is an overused term. What I mean is a flexible, right, and adaptive manufacturing unit, a manufacturing business, right? So we believe that will be defined in the upcoming years because that's an ever-changing thing. In core 2 or 3 subjects, I will take the help of my colleagues to quickly run through those ideas in the next 20-30 minutes. So I will start with the first idea on project management. Why are we speaking about project management? Aren't the guys full of people who build roads and bridges and railway stations and airports? Isn't that a subject for them? Why am I speaking about project management? Because I believe if there is a progressive manufacturing unit, 70-80% of the time of the senior members of that organization will go into taking care and directing and supporting teams who are doing other things apart from buying raw material, adding value and selling those products. You can call that as manufacturing, right? All manufacturing as input material has value addition and there is distribution and sales. That's manufacturing, you can say, right? Upstream or inbound and outbound and value addition in the factory. But most of you spend a lot of time over and beyond that. Because if you want to build more capacity, if you want to augment your legacy capacity, somebody brought that up yesterday. Augment your legacy capacity to basically you want to modernize, you want to implement a software, you want to implement a new management system in your organization. You want to train your people in a certain area, you want to create a JV, you want to research on a product, you want to do new product development. All of these are projects. All of these are not everyday activities. All of these are not, naturally constrained to this raw material, value addition, sales activities. But these are projects that define whether you will grow or not. Right? So the effectiveness of these projects will matter. Right? Now, so in project management, if all of us have to become better in project management, we believe in manufacturing. As manufacturing leaders, when you handle manufacturing projects in your organizations and related to your organizations, we believe there are 3 things that you should focus on. Oh, sorry, the slides are with me. I am used to this luxury of, somebody else changing the slides for me. Right? Now, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, right? Why projects fail, why projects succeed, you know that. 3 things we want to tell, because this we see overarchingly as opportunities for improvement, is predictability over speed. Whenever you want to do a project, what is our ambition? I will do at the shortest possible time. Right? I will do it in 8 months. I'll do it in 6 months. Right? Yes. But if we can think, rather than saying, can we finish earlier, can we commit with 95% confidence? Right? Because you are not in the business. You are in the business of making cars, making petroleum products, making chemical fertilizers, making polyester, making sanitary ware, making wind turbines. You are not in the business of these projects. Doing a more effective project with better predictability in most cases actually benefits your organization than the cheeky benefits of faster delivery. Right? So it is very important that we have a shift from looking at effectiveness of project management from speed to predictability and clarity. Right? Then the next topic. It's a very favorite topic of mine. I think most people who have seen me in my audits and my sessions know that I overharp on this subject. So I will do that again. All of you are here to create more revenue and profit, not to make savings. Right? Savings is a short-term goal so that you can get some brownie points from your boss, or for yourself, or some gratification. Right? We are not here for savings, we are here for profit. Right? So the discussion yesterday, which precedes scale or efficiency? Scale creates efficiency, mostly not the vice versa. A visionary will invest in scale that will create efficiency. Right? So it is that. So we are not here to say whether we have done cost saving. It is to say, where am I able to predict cost and was I able to stay within that cost? Because all your other matrices, yesterday there was the concept of what is the IRR, ROI, all of that. So sometimes it is good to forget or forgive, or sometimes, give up the pleasures of earning cheeky benefits and look at the long term. Like I think today morning, Mr. Gopalakrishnan so beautifully told, like how a mother, while she is worrying about what my kid is wearing, whether the diapers are changed, all of that, whenever she's soda free, she's immediately thinking, right? I think my daughter or child is older, we have to plan for the school. Right? The higher wired neurons or the neural system in our brain. Right? So it's very important to not rush for cost savings, but to say whether do I have a predictable system on cost. Is my costing technically sound? I think most of you would have heard this. I keep telling, in India, we really overestimate this fear of H1N1 virus, Ebola virus and all these things. I know people may deny, not agree with me that they are not so dangerous. I am also not saying they are not so dangerous. They are dangerous. But there is even more dangerous virus that affects us every day. Affects our life every day. You know what is that virus? It is the L1 virus. Right? How many of you understand L1? Yes. So all of you are from this. So the L1 virus corrupts our country more than what we can. It is the sickness we have to get rid of. Right? We have to have a more technical way that we understand costs in this country, whether at a policy level, whether at a government level we are able to do that. That's a different story. But at our careers, in our manufacturing units, we can do that. We will appreciate technical costing and the adherence to that more important than somebody showing cheeky benefits, right? Small cost savings. Because once you reward that, you are kick-starting a different race, a negative race in an organization, right? Continuous knowledge flow, right? So projects don't have to operate. Projects, when I mean here, not just infrastructure projects, projects of software implementation, management systems implementation, training, new customer acquisition, new product launches, all of that. Projects don't have to be focused or aligned towards reviews. Today there are enough digital systems, enough management systems, know-how, knowledge in this world so that we can have an online and a live visualization of projects, and the thinking should be that I'm not working for the review, I'm working for the effectiveness. First of all, if I have to know what is deviation, I have to know what is the standard, right? So the profound knowledge subject comes in. So there is no, running for reviews. With all the DDMRP softwares in the world, have we achieved to reduce our end of month skew on our sales? If our supply chain systems are demand driven, why are we rushing to dispatch our products by end of the month? Because somewhere we don't want to follow the natural flow, we want to follow the month-end sales review. Right? The same thing happens for the projects. So now it is a time where we are driven by knowledge and know-how and not by reviews. So 5 organizational capabilities when it comes to handling internal projects in an organization, strategic portfolio governance. We want you to be able to prioritize projects. I keep telling this word. Every drop counts. Please become a leader who will question that. Right? If every drop counts, there should never ever be water scarcity in Mumbai. Right? Is there water scarcity in Mumbai? Almost every year. Is there a flood like seen in Mumbai? Almost every year. Is it one of the world's, India's most rainfall regions? Always has been there for millions of years that way. Right? Every drop doesn't count, for which you have done irrigation counts. Right? Which is whether it is in a rainfall region that will go into a catchment area, that counts. So make sure that you are prioritizing your teams on critical projects that are linked to the growth and development of your company. The portfolio of projects you take up. Integrated planning. I think that's an art we have mastered. Right? Try to decipher that. There is a word, no? One of my most interesting book that got me into consulting, Six Sigma Demystified. Somebody gifted me a book like that. I am still in the process of making sure all my attendants, trainees, every time carry a book, because that book changed my career. Because I really thought Six Sigma is something I'll never understand. There was an author who has a book called Six Sigma Demystified, which had broken that down to very simple ideas. Similarly, try to do that when you are integrating every function in your organization. Demystify the project, bring everyone together. You may not have to work for everyone's convenience, but definitely everyone's intentional collaboration. Right? So that the project is not a challenge between functions, but a collective outcome of their collaboration. Execution intelligence. Right? Democratize execution intelligence. Right? I will tell one date, I know that date is not that, this things, I will keep a buffer, everybody keeps a buffer. Like, you know these people, right, in manufacturing, especially, I'm in a factory, right, that's about 2 hours from the plant, right, and I have a flight at 6 o'clock. So ideally, I have to be 1 hour before to the airport, at least by the directive, right, so I have to be at 5 o'clock, so I have to leave the plant at 3 o'clock. They will tell me that absolutely you have to leave by 12 o'clock. Because they'll keep buffer. You have to be in the airport 2 hours before. You have a 2-hour travel, you keep a buffer of 1 hour there. Right? So that becomes 3 hours. So that you anyways have to finish your things and wrap up 1 hour before that. We've all done that, right? Anybody who's saying no, I'll not agree to that. Because I know the fact. Right? So, it is okay in some cases, but in most cases, we have to come out of this idea that we are piling up on our buffers. That is coming to the fact that we are hiding in projects the execution intelligence. We want to be clear, no, 99% of the time. Because there is evaluated risk we can take. A flight is something you can miss. It's not a crime. If you take 20 flights, 1 flight can be missed. Similarly, your projects can be delayed, right? But it has to be predictable delay. What you will do for that should be known. So that intelligence, bringing everyone together, democratizing that intelligence will give you that ability and decision velocity. I keep telling that, we really speak too much of cycle time conversation in our manufacturing units. We want to always talk about cycle time, right? Why is this guy doing this process in so much cycle time? And after that particular step, it's waiting for few hours. We have to bring the lead time thinking. I think I'll just remove that decision velocity and rename it as lead time thinking. No cycle time thinking. Cycle time improvements are important, but you have to have lead time thinking. Right? And a learning organization. Every time we execute a project, it's not that we learn lessons at a post-mortem standpoint or the post-completion standpoint. No, we are constantly learning and evolving. I think these 5 things will make you able to do projects in your organizations, which means all your developmental activities in your organization are that. leaders in a good company don't spend time on mundane activities. They delegate that and they put their heads into what I have to do, which these guys don't have to worry about, right? I will worry about what is important for next year, next 3 years, next 5 years. So that's why we're talking about it now. So this is what we call as the project excellence flywheel. Better portfolio selection, better planning, higher predictability, lower risk, higher resource productivity, better financial outcomes, greater organizational confidence, and more strategic projects. Right? Identifying, researching, hunting for good projects. You want to make the biggest, most powerful impact for your own career and for the organizations you come from. Be on a mad hunt to identify strategic projects. They are the most instrumental tool to growth as a country, as a company, and as individuals. Right? Indian manufacturing requires a lot of that. Right? So I know I'm not a very interesting person on stage, so I end up speaking some boring things. So I will not take the stage more than this. I will bring in my colleagues now. So I told you 3 areas we want to talk about. One is better project management in our manufacturing ecosystems. The other is on creating a better ecosystem for talent. Should we have more employee-friendly activities? Should we have a 5-day work, 4-day work? I'm not getting there. This is not going to be a HR session. Trust me, the guy who's coming to speak also is not qualified in HR. Right? But he has visited enough units to understand which is a more conducive environment where employees thrive and not survive. Many of us have at some point in our career felt that, right? Am I thriving in this company or am I surviving? How many of you will agree to that? I'll definitely agree to that with double hands. Right? So whether we are thriving here or surviving and what makes that difference, my colleague Pradeep Shankar will speak a few points on that. So a quick introduction on Pradeep Shankar. So he was in his previous organizations probably called the youngest unit head, and he's very proud, and he's told this to me like 1,000 times, so I have to repeat that, right? So he was heading a small unit at the age of 24. Not his dad's unit. It was a multi-billion-dollar company that he was one of the fast-performing talents, so they had a small unit. They said, okay, you manage that, right? From that, we didn't let his career grow in that direction. We pulled him into consulting through IRIM, right? Now that he's probably the most traveled person next to me in my company. He's traveled, I think many of you know him, and he will share some thoughts, after which I'll introduce my next colleague. You will take over? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Anand, for your kind introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to take the direction in which Anand has already said. We are just trying to give you certain perspectives on how organizations are looking forward and what are the key drivers that are going to happen. We talked about project management excellence, but I will take you through something called sense of safety. And when I mention safety, I think you all will be triggered towards, I'm going to talk about preventing risk, minimizing accidents or incidents. No, I'm not going into that. I want to broaden this topic, right? I'm sure we are all from manufacturing industry. We have spent decades of years in maturing the safety process and systems, right from compliance to risk assessment to where we are able to leverage technology that is able to help us in reducing accidents or incidents. Today, let us talk about sense of safety. What is sense of safety? Being safe and feeling safe are two different things, right? So here we want to understand the safety perception of the people, the employees that you are having, right? So when we talk about this, yesterday Mr. Varadaraju, he was talking about one thing, how they were able to deploy physically challenged people in their organization, and their performance was close to around 90-95% of the regular workforce. When we think about this is not about philanthropy or the kind of help that they are providing. It is the system that they have created, the environment that they have created, that these people are able to thrive. The most vulnerable people are able to perform, right? So that is going to be the key contributor or the key driver that we see organizations to take it forward. So I will take a few slides just to brief about this concept. So So let me talk about this, which is people remain the strongest differentiator, right? Yesterday, I'm sure most of you have heard Dr. Pillai sir's words about how ISRO was started, the key figures of our space research program. He talked about Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, Dr. Satish Dhawan, Kalam sir himself, Mailswamy and others. There are, so all organization, if you drill down, right? They are dependent on people. The leaders are going to be the drivers. I'm sure we all agree with that. Whatever technology that may come, AI may come, even our AI tech giant, right, AMD, CEO Dr. Lisa was mentioning that, AI can help you to process information, but end of the day, human judgment is irreplaceable, right? So we cannot take responsibility. We have to take responsibility. AI will not take responsibility. Right? So I'm sure we all agree with that, that the human are the key differentiator in any organization. And for a human to perform, we should have that ecosystem, right? We should have that environment. Whether your employees are able to reach their full potential. Are we able to leverage their full potential? If I ask this question, sometimes you will say that we need more motivation. We need some session on motivation. We will identify a trainer for motivating our employees. No, I don't agree with that. We have seen many factories, and today's situation, how people have challenges, right? They have stress in their own life. When they come to factory, we believe that they want to honestly contribute to the welfare of for the organization, right? So here we are not going to say that motivation is the problem. We are going to say that what we have done that has suppressed them to perform. So we have to rethink as leaders, what is that enablement that we have to do that will motivate the employees, right? So as Mr. Anand mentioned, whether today our people are surviving or thriving. The difference is very simple. The surviving people are trying to protect their own, right? They want to just meet the target. They don't want to speak up. They will come, do their 8 hours of work, then they will leave. They don't want to contribute. They are in the mindset that this is enough for me, I have to survive in this organization. But people who are thriving will share ideas. They are going to solve your problems. They are going to be the key drivers, right? So we have to see how many of our workforce are in surviving mode and how many are in thriving mode. The more is better, of course, right? So what is this concept of sense of safety, right? So I will just take two research studies. I just want to mention that. One by Harvard University professor, Dr. Amy Edmond. When she studied different hospitals about the nursing group, which teams are performing better, she identified that the teams which are open to communicate, who can share their problem, are the better performing team. Similar outcome was also analyzed by another project done by Google, Project Aristotle, you can look it up. So there also they studied a different combination of teams. They put a high-performing team, highly talented team, highly experienced team, mix of both, etc. But the key differentiator was the teams which had a lot of psychological safety, where people are open to communicate their problems, right? So those teams were the key performing, and this was the differentiator. So for any organization to thrive, we feel that we have to ensure, of course, the first is physical safety, the basic safety that, the Maslow's law of hierarchy of needs, right? So we know the first is physical safety, then is psychological safety, then is about inclusion, trust, and then it will slowly build into sense of safety, right? So how employees experience safety, right? See, that is a very tricky aspect. It's not easy to do, right? We as leaders, we may feel something, we may say something, but how they perceive. A supervisor may say, this job you can do, it is safe. But an employee may feel that it is unsafe for me to do, right? So it is about how you are able to listen to them, how they are able to speak up in the organization. That is going to be the critical factor for you. And how my concerns are heard. So the leadership is going to play a very key role in how you are going to shape the perception. It is not about what you say. It is not about the banners, posters that we put. It is about the actions that we take that is able to build this sense of safety in our employees. So as I mentioned, this is how the leadership climate, safe perception, and builds trust, striving, and business performance. So we all want you to think that this sense of safety can be a core business strategy for our organization. It is not about, it is a welfare program, it is some engagement initiatives, no. Say, for example, I'm sure you all know the tragic accidents that happen in aircrafts, right? Flight incidents that are there. In Japan, there was one major incident. When they tried to analyze the incident, right? Say they found out they know the problem. The first officer, there is a first officer, there is a captain, if you know the. So the first officer knows the problem, but he didn't say the problem, right? Because you know Japanese culture, it's very hierarchical. There is certain dominance, they are more respectful. So the junior pilot withheld certain information, which could have prevented an accident. Then they changed. I think it is like 2 decades ago. Then they changed the systems. They have something called queue resource management today, where compulsorily, mandatorily, each of them has to communicate. It has been recorded. That what is their challenges, what they feel about this flight operation, they feel anything unsafe or any hindrance is there. They have to talk, they have to record it today. So that is how things are important, right? So we may think that the biggest loss, the hidden loss in our organization is the failures that we had. No, it is the information that never gets shared, right? So we want you to think that how you are able to help employees build that ecosystem that will help them to thrive, that will help them to give their discretionary effort, how they can collaborate and work together, right? So with this few slides, just to give a insight on the actions that you can take, we certainly believe that the leaders shape the workplace reality because they are watching you. As I mentioned, every employee is watching the leader, and what actions the leaders take are going to be what he will understand as safety. It is not about the town hall talks. It is not about the candid chai with the leader things. It is not about the Gemba walks that you go through. But what actions you are able to do, that is going to be the perception that he is going to take, right? So we would like you to encourage speaking up, few things that you can try to build on safety. It is very difficult to build for a large organization. We start measuring. Even sense of safety is one of the leading indicator for business performance, right? So we want you to start measuring how the people are speaking up, whether they are responding, how you are able to respond constructively to their suggestions, right? See, it is again very difficult, as I mentioned. If you're going to ask an honest opinion from an employee, 90% sure that it is not going to be honest. He wants to please you. He wants to say something that's nice to you, so that you feel better that he's moving on, right? So even we don't share whom we are going to vote in amongst our family members. Trust me, I'm from Tamil Nadu. We had a lot of surprises this election, right? So we have to encourage that. We have to set up few things. We have to work on how we are able to build that sense of safety, how we are able to encourage people to try to align ourselves. So with this, I will just finalize my session that, see, we want to build globally competitive enterprises. See, we are very proud that many of our Indian people are working in tech giants in US, etc., right? They are the leaders there. We are proud. Certainly, we can be proud. But we want you to think how you can bring global talent to our industry. For example, this manufacturing leader summit is there. Can there be 20%, 25% of expats in this room? Right? How you are able to bring the global talent? If you have to become globally competitive, we have to have talent. Right? For having that talent, we need to have an ecosystem that supports that. For that, sense of safety is going to be a key driver. I think with this, thank you for the opportunity, and over to Anand.
Yeah. Thank you, Pradeep. I think I just have another half an hour of slides I have to run through. So before I go into that, I would like to give about a 10-minute lecture on a topic. Right? I think now you are already hating me, so I will skip all of that, and I'll bring in a very interesting person, a person whom I've known for more than 3 decades now. I'm not that old, but because the fact is he's my childhood friend, right? And he's been a person who's worked in different business environments in more than 4 continents and worked with several billion-dollar companies, which in their own accords have been benchmarks to the world in some of their operational parameters, and they have achieved several of them through digital tools. And that is why even today, back to back, we've had people who trying to show case studies on how this tool is going to make a big impact. But he has a very different perspective. He believes that enterprise digitalization is an overrated subject. So like, Uncle Sam says, like that, have you seen the Uncle Sam jokes? Like Uncle Sam says, so Mr. Jagdish wants to say that digitalization starts with you. Right? And I think he will speak about that.
Well, I hope I have the audience with me. It's been half an hour after lunch. So here we are going to, we had a lot of sessions from leading digital companies, right? Like they show products, enterprise level transformation and all these things. And if I were to ask, there is a major paradigm shift which is happening, which I almost started 2 years before. It is in the ways of which we work. We should no longer be using digital tools. We should be working digitally. What does that mean? That's what we are going to demystify in the subsequent sessions. Now, if I ask, can I have show of hands where you say my organization invests in technology? Hardly there will be any hands which will go up saying that no, my organization does not invest in technology, be it operational technology, engineering technology, or digital technologies, right? We have numerous technical tools which we use on day-to-day basis. Right from a workplace collaboration happens through products given by Google, Microsoft, Zoho. We have our business transactions powered by SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and our engineering, a lot of products like Dassault, Autodesk, Siemens, Aviva. There is no dearth of technologies available in our system. But are we using it to transform our ways of working? That's the big question we should ask now. So it asks the digital readiness of an organization. It is not about software. It starts with you. Let me give you a standout example or an observation which clearly comes out from the digital maturity assessment which we did for almost like 100+ factories in the last 6 months. One standout is that 80% of our factories have a greater opportunity to improve in the people dimension of digital transformation. Are my people ready to embrace it and imbibe it in their daily workflows? How can I get that done? Organization wants you to work digitally, not use the tools as it is. So the ways to get started would be first to identify repetitive works. Whereas works which I need not necessarily do it, if there is a particular pattern about it, how can I automate it? The next big thing is that how can I have structured content? Unstructured content creates dependency. Right? If there is an unstructured minutes of meeting, you need to go to a person and ask what is it about it. But a structured content creates scalability. Then rather than looking for new shiny tools, let's look at what our organization has and how can we leverage it. Because our organization has far more capacity in the technology space, in the tools which we have, rather than how we use it. So let me ask before going into this, how many of you, irrespective of the tools which I said previously, which you used today, how many of you still fall back onto reminders, follow-ups to get your work completed? There will be a large portion which still does that. And that's what we wanted to get eradicated, right? That's not necessarily what we are here tasked for. So from our experience, we have put up 5 behavioral shifts which can help you to start in this journey. It's you who's going to make your organization digitally ready. The first one would be on, rather than focusing on completing tasks, which we are good at, observe the task, see what do we do in the task. So only when you observe, you will be able to improvise on it, you will be able to digitize on it. Then goes from unstructured content to structured content. What does that mean? A minutes of meeting in an action is an information to a user, right? Whereas if you put it in a tracker, it helps you to track, analyze, complete, and then you can also report onto it if needed. Reporting history to enabling actions. What does that mean? We have KPIs and dashboards which throw out matrices, which enable us to avoid incidents and take actions, but we want them to be automated. Why not a lapse in an operational defect raise to the respective maintenance engineer and solve it on the fly? which will add value to the business, not just an addition of or reduction of certain tasks. Let's not accept repetitive works. Why should I send a reminder email to 20 people to finish a particular tutorial or a particular learning guide? Why not I automate it so that it keeps going automatically? And all of these things, don't wait for enterprise transformation. Look into the tools which you have, how you can use it to solve them, right? Because a digitally enabled leader will not wait. He will find ways to solve a solution. And I will touch upon it. So far, it's been theoretical. Hey, everyone comes and talks about it, right? Like, I wanted to make you use digital tools. How do we do it? So with the team, we put together a tech stack or a scenario which is applicable to at least 50-60% of it. So the product toolset which I show in the subsequent slides is not an endorsement of this toolset. It is just a lowest common denominator which is applicable for a larger people of it. You have similar comparable stacks if you are into a different ecosystem altogether, right? Let's take our daily production call or weekly safety meeting. How is it done today? The first tool which we use Teams, where everyone connects. Geographically, if you're distributed, that's not a problem. Everyone comes together in one screen. You can see each of them. You can have a very interactive conversation. Information is all shared in automated dashboards. KPIs is already there. We discuss. We create a consensus on it. Then the inference and discussions, decisions, actions. Today, a lot of people will use Teams automatic meeting summaries. I will be surprised if no one is using it, because meetings can summarize it and send the minutes of meeting for you, right? So you'll be using it to send the meetings out, right? This is what is agreed. This is the actions on each of them. Then we go ahead, follow up, come back to the next meeting, only to be reminded that a lot of those actions has not really completed. There is delays and has been fallen into the cracks. How many of you resonate with this? Here we use a lot of digital tools. There is a lot of digital tools. We have Teams, we have dashboards built on Power BI, Tableau, whatnot. We have AI listening to what we are discussing, creating you the action notes and everything. Then it's all sent digitally. So what's wrong with this process? After step 3 is where the change has to happen from. So we have taken a product which is available in the Microsoft tool stack, and the basic plan is actually $0. It doesn't cost you anything. It is just your intent to explore it and start using it in your day-to-day life. So how does it work? You connect on Teams, your co-pilot listens to it, extracts the meeting summary, excerpts and everything, sends to the person who has chaired the meeting, saying that this is the list of actions which I wanted to do it. The person who's chairing the meeting or who's leading the meeting, he approves it. Use Power Automate, which is like a workflow tool. There is a lot of products which is available in its equivalent stacks, like Zogo has Zogo Workflow, Google have their own automation stack. So you use that, it automatically creates a tracking. Now for me to track, I don't need to buy a project management tool to start with, right? You can start simple. It can go and create an automated Excel sheet with all the tasks in a structured format. That's where the structure comes into picture. You create the actions, you create what needs to be done, who needs to do it, when it needs to be done. The structure gets automatically created by Copilot. Once that structure is established, you can have workflows run on top of it. What does that mean? It can look for it. If there's a date and there is no update onto it, it can send an automated reminder. And if there is no further updates, it can send an escalation notice. And all these things is happening like non-stop when you are doing some other useful things. So this, how many of you are aware of Power Automate? How many of you are using it? Expected this. I would be very disappointed if there is no show of hands. I know that there is 20-30% of the organization which has already started, but amazing. It's super amazing there. And then it can also create real-time dashboard. And when I'm talking here about dashboard, I'm not talking about Power BI and Tableau. As soon as I say dashboard, hey, I don't know Power BI, I don't know Tableau. Why should I learn about it? It's really difficult and tricky. It can create dashboards in your Excel sheet. All you need to know, what is the open task, what are the things which I need to decide. It can create graphs for you in Excel sheet. With this, I will give you my use case of example. The purpose of this 15 minutes of conversation is that when you go back from here, we want you to take an affirmative step of identifying a repetitive task. How do I automate it so that I get back 10 minutes of my time in the day? I got back my 10 minutes of my time with a very simple approach. Before going there, 3 years back when I was on stage, like we were very cautious. Let's not introduce technical terms to the audience. They might not like if I say LLM, MCP, and all these things, they may get lost, right? Let's not do it. But this year we said that no, we have to get them introduced to it. So how a Salesforce and SAP talks to each other, right? Today, a Google which is responsible for your meetings, emails, and all these things can talk to your Copilot, can talk to your ChatGPT if your organization is using ChatGPT. How I saved my 10 minutes in the day. I have stopped using calendar to schedule my meetings. Then how do I do it? The usual problem in scheduling a meeting is that you find the participants, and unfortunately in my meetings it's usually 4 or 5 participants. So finding a common time slot between them, right, their availability and all those things easily takes around at least 5 minutes. I'm being a little conservative here. At least 5 minutes for me to set one meeting, right? Today I don't do that. All the mail apps or all the calendar apps which is available, be it shared by Microsoft, Google, they have a skill. So they call it as a skill. A skill is exposed to any of these large language models. What we call as large language models is nothing but the GPTs of the world, which is powering Copilot, Gemini in Google, ChatGPT by OpenAI, right, and Zia by Zoho. So these LLMs can now know that the user is asking me to schedule a meeting between me, Pradeep, and Louis for 30 minutes, and this is the topic, right? It can look for the availability. It can ensure that there is a previous meeting which is getting closed. Can I give a 15 minutes gap in between it so that there is not overlap and the meeting starts on time? It schedules it and sends an email. And if I factor in just 2 meetings a day, which means roughly around, let's say I have around 48 meetings in a month, I get 1 day of my life back to me to do whatever I wanted to do. I'm not necessarily saying that go back and do some other office work. Take it for your personal thing, right? I have 1 day back, and I did nothing. I have GPT, and I'm on a call. I can press just listen. Can you schedule this meeting? And it does that. It's so simple, right? That's the digitization, the readiness which we wanted our employees to be in. That's what organization senior management is echoing out. Any example someone want to call out? Because I have certain show of hands for Power Automate. It will be really helpful for the crowd to listen to an even more productionized example of it. Any example someone wants to share before we move on to the next slide on how you have used automation or things to reduce some of your activities? Okay. I will give you an example. We had one of our participants who has embraced digital to a level that they are already taking steps to have their workforce digitally enabled. So very simple use case, the utilities. We have large factories, utilities which has your water vending machines, or be it the cleanliness of your loos, right? If something is incorrect, how do I get it reported? How do I get it fixed on time? I don't necessarily want it for someone to go put it in a register. So they created a QR code. They created a Microsoft Forms. I think many people have used Microsoft Forms or Google Forms. They created a Microsoft form, pasted as a QR code. Now every individual in India know what a QR code is, because that's the power of digital payments, right? So they scan it, they put in basic information, it goes back and sits in a spreadsheet for tracking. It sends the email to the person who's responsible for that particular location to come and look into the problem and then solve it. And then he can respond back to that email, which automatically updates the sheet. Now, is it not a complicated, sophisticated solution, but it serves the purpose. And that's the starting point, which a lot of organizations have started taking. Don't measure your digitization by the complexity of the solution or the number of tools which you use. The practicality and the applicability of the solution is what matters here. So the question no longer is, does my organization have digital technology, right? Rather than we need to say, has digital technology changed the way I personally work? Now, while I urge you to take an affirmative step to go back and find a place of improvement in your day-to-day life and activity, we are not talking about enterprise. If you individuals are capable to automate or make your life perform faster, that will naturally contribute to the larger vision of the organization. But have these things in mind when you select what has to be automated. First of all, the process has to be clearly defined. A poor process would result in poor process failing faster. So don't do that. It need not always be AI and AI adoption. it has to be simplified in a way that you can save some amount of time from your mundane tasks. And most importantly, factor in your organizational policies, what tools can be used, not used. Just take the step to get it understand. Right now, we are staying away saying that if I wanted to improve the safety of my organization, let they be digitalized everywhere in the factory, which is basically installing cameras and reading it, right? Not necessarily. We can have other options of doing it. So before coming in, when we planned the summarize the session activity across these 2 days, when the team was planning, like how can we engage with the people, the summarize the session, there was one hidden agenda which was under the summarize the session. Okay? So how many of you used GPT to construct the language which you submitted in the summary of your session? Can I have show of hands? 2, 3, good. So I presume what you did is you typed, this is what my understanding of the session is. Can you make it even more polished so that when someone is reading it, it's all nice sorted? Good. Level 1 in being digitally enabled. How many of you took photos of the screenshots shared here or this presentation shared here, uploaded to GPT and asked it to summarize? Good. I would be disappointed if I don't see hands here because we have a system to grade the quality of it, to the mechanism of it. So that's all been done. So we know there were certain things which are done that way. Good. You are the second level of digital maturity, right? There was no one stopping you. We did not tell that, see, you are here to listen. You are physically present to take the learnings with you. And this is just a way to evaluate how you are thinking on the spot. A digitally enabled person has to find out ways of solving a problem. You need not necessarily follow the right path, right? Now, third one, how many of you turned on your recorder, started the recorder at the start of the session, stopped it so that it is giving you the summary? Level 3, how much time did I spend? Very little. I am listening. Here is my phone, parallelly listening to it. It is summarizing it. It is giving me the best 50 words out of it. Copy, paste it, move out for the next session. Level 3, right? So, one of the team members said that, sir, this will not work. Like, they will have ways to solve it. There is no problem with it. You need to find ways to solve it, right? How do you efficiently solve is what matters. So when you move out of this Thought Leader Summit, we wanted you to identify a repetitive task, see how you can optimize it, track it, implement it, and share it with others, encourage others to also take the similar steps. When you put all these things together, it will compound into an amazing amalgamation of superpower which your organization will receive into. With that, thanks for your time. And any questions? I think we are.
Thank you so much, Jagdish. So we are all clear now. Before building digitally equipped or digitalized organizations, let's become professionals who are digitally enabled, right? So we all agree to that. So which means that after the session is over, this time you will put very good, well-articulated responses to the summary competition which we have, right? So we'll do that. Now, before I say thank you and move on to the next session, which I think many of you are waiting, in your schedules it will say it is a panel. So it is not a panel, but we have most loved and honorable gentleman with us, a national hero who will be speaking. I think Neelakandan will introduce him officially. One thing I want to leave the stage with is great gratitude for the lovely attention we've had and the level of discipline this audience has shown. I don't think that at any point the number of people loitering here exceeded 1%, right? And thank you so much for that. That is not for granted. And we will remember this. Thank you so much.